Hello again, this is Rabbi Dr. Juan Marcos Bejarano Gutierrez, and today we're sort of turning a page, so to speak, on some of the passages that we've been looking at. Our focus so far has been looking at Sheol, because that occupies so many passages in the Tanakh. We find it in so many passages in the Tanakh. And we've talked about the characteristics, the things that define it, the things that are ascribed to it, the river that flows in the midst of it, the chambers, the different levels, the gates, the descriptions of it. In this particular passage, we're looking at something different. We're looking at three passages. The first are Ecclesiastes, Job, and then a Psalm. And then the passage from Jeremiah that you see on the screen is actually about something else. But in any case, what we're looking at is a different indication of what happens after death. And I think this is very exciting because until this point, it seemed that Sheol, there was a finality to it. The dead did not return. That's it. There's sort of a bookend there that closes off any kind of existence after that. But in these passages, we see something different. In Ecclesiastes or Kohelet 12:7, we read Ve'ashov he'afar al haaretz keshechayav ruach tashuv et ha'elokim asher natana. And the dust returneth to the earth as it was, and the spirit returneth unto God who gave it. Now, this is interesting because first of all, the first indication or the first element that we should look at is the use of the term ruach. Because in the other passages that we looked at, I think we had one reference that talked about nefesh, sometimes translated as soul. Here we have the spirit, or the wind, the breath, you could say, the haruach tashuv, it returns to God. So whatever happens after the body decays, when that happens exactly is not clear, but the spirit of man returns to Hashem. And so that we automatically have something different there taking place. In Sefer Iyov, the book of Job, chapter 19, 25 and 26, we read, Ve'ani yadati go'ali chai, ve'acharon al afar yakum, ve'achar ori, nikefu zot, mibi sari echeze Eloah. But as for me, I know that my Redeemer liveth, and that he will witness at the last upon the dust. And when after my skin this is destroyed, then without my flesh I shall see God. Now, we quoted that at the very beginning, the very first video, when I was using one of my novels to illustrate the different images of Sheol, the different images of death. And I think that this passage is so amazing because in this passage, it seems that the body, the corporeality, is almost like a hindrance for the individual to be able to encounter God. So that when my skin is destroyed, then my flesh shall see God. Now, does this indicate that there has to be some kind of a process before the individual's nefesh or spirit, whatever it is that continues, encounters God? It's not clear. But I think that in many ways, this is probably the most hopeful text that we've seen in the sense that it gives an idea of the afterlife, communing with God, encountering God, in a way that cannot be understood in our physical bodies. Psalm 48:15 continues, and it says, Kizeh Elohim Eloheinu olam va'ed, hu yenachagenu al mut. For such is our God forever and ever, he will guide us eternally. Now, what's, literally, if you wanted to read it, it says al mut. So he will lead us upon death. And if you look at the JPS translation, it says eternally. You can look at other translations, and sometimes it'll say death or different versions of that. I think it's interesting that the JPS selected Al-Mut because I think what they're deriving here is this idea that he will guide us upon death. And what does it mean to be guided upon death? It sort of implies that there's something that comes after that. And so the understanding of this text is effectively that there's something there that continues, and Hashem will be the one to guide us. So I think that is also an amazing passage because it sort of hints at the continuation of existence in some form, but Hashem, of course, is the one that ultimately is in control. Now, the last verse here, Jeremiah 31, we're going to look at separately. It really should have been part of another slide, but I think it's something interesting that we should look at. So we'll continue with our analysis of Jewish perspectives in the afterlife in the next video.